So the town of Orangeville's Recreation and Parks Master Plan 2020 was released, and as a result, the proposed closure of the Mill Street branch of the Orangeville Library has gotten a lot of attention. Duffer News even covered how this proposal would affect some of our community's most vulnerable groups. Something else in the Parks and Rec Master Plan that has gotten less attention, but could affect our community just as much, is the proposed closure of the parts of the Tony Rose Arena, most specifically the pool. One group that would be significantly affected by this is the Orangeville Otters Swim Club. Head coach Rob Taylor joins us to discuss how important Tony Rose is to the future of the club and how we need more space for aquatics programs, not less. Hi, I'm Josh McKeon with Duffer News, and I'm personally worried that the proposed closure of the Mill Street branch of the Orangeville Library is being used as a red herring to distract from the proposed closure of many of Tony Rose's facilities, most specifically the pool. There are not many aquatics facilities in Dufferin, especially ones that are open year-round, and the closure of the Tony Rose pool could quite possibly limit the availability of aquatics programs for the county as a whole. I mean, where does one go to swim if not in Orangeville? If Orangeville restricts its aquatics programs to those living within town's borders, where will the rest of Dufferin learn to swim? This discussion with Rob Taylor, head coach of the Orangeville Otters Swim Club, will be broken up into several segments, with most of our discussion on the proposed closure of the Tony Rose pool taking place in the latter half. To start off, though, Rob shares how the Orangeville Otters have grown and what they've accomplished in recent years. We then move on to talk about how the club has managed during the COVID crisis before moving in the Parks and Rec Master Plan. Big thanks to Rob for his time and for his insights into this important issue. We're lucky to have a former Olympian helping Orangeville bolster its reputation in sports, and I hope there is a long future for you in our community. I'm Josh McKeon with Duffer News. I hope you enjoy the segment. Thanks. Hi, it's Josh McKeon here with Duffer News, and today I am joined by Rob Taylor, head coach for the Orangeville Otters Swim Club. Thanks so much for your time, Rob. It is appreciated. And how are you doing today?
Well, I'm doing well, Josh. Thank you very much for having me, and I'm happy to speak about what we're going to talk about with Tony Rose and other things. But I'm doing well.
So, just to start off, I'm curious, how many members does the Orangeville Otters Swim Club have?
We had 132 members when we shut down on March the 14th in the competitive programs. We typically have somewhere between 50 and 60 non-competitive swimmers, which are like the Learn to Swim members, and around 30 master swimmers, which are swimmers who are typically adults, like parents. You can be 18 and over to be a master swimmer, but most of our swimmers who are 18 or over are at university, and then they return to us for the summer. So, this year we were, I guess, then somewhere in and around 240 swimmers, which is a huge increase over the last 4 years. When I took over 4 years ago in the 2016-2017 season, we were around 110. So we've done quite well. Certainly would say that we are lucky that our Canadian national swim team was so successful in Rio. Our numbers were boosted by the results of the team there. But we've had access to more pool time from the town. We have a bigger coaching staff. So those two things really, really helped us kind of enhance the scope of our program offering. So we're doing quite well. We've gone from what I would say is a small, medium-sized club, which is what Swim Ontario would have viewed us now, to a very, very healthy medium-sized club, maybe even approaching the likes of the larger teams. We'll probably never end up where North York and Etobicoke and Oakville and some of those really, really big center clubs are, right in the center of Toronto and the GTA, but we're doing quite well from a membership standpoint.
That's awesome. Wow. That's a lot of progress too. I mean, in such a short period.
Yeah, well, like I said, I came in, and one of my goals, one of my visions was knowing that there are a lot of families here that we wanted swimming to be accessible to more people than it was. And in order to do that, we needed to have more access to pool time, and we needed to have more coaches on staff to be able to accommodate the influx of swimmers that we might get. So we've increased our coaching staff quite significantly in the last 4 years, and I'm very, very happy with where our staff is, and our program offerings have then also expanded because we're able to accommodate more programming, obviously, with more coaches and more pool time. So I'm very pleased actually with where we are. I didn't think we would have expanded so quickly, but I think it goes to show the interest in swimming in the community.
I mean, if you have more supply, then you'd be able to accommodate more demand, and also it spurs more interest and more people that do it anyway. So more people join in.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And right now, I don't know where the ceiling is for us within the community, because we have obviously we draw on a very significant geographical area compared to many other swim clubs in the GTA, which are, if you live in Mississauga, you're probably more likely to swim from Mississauga than you would be for Brampton or Oakville or Etobicoke, even though those are well within your driving distance or driving range. But of course, we pull from swimmers that live in Shelburne and Erin, Alliston, Bolton, various parts of Caledon, obviously our own community, Orangeville, Mono, Amaranth, East Fairfax, all that immediate surrounding areas. We've even had swimmers coming up from Angus and over from Mount Forest and other places. So we've got a lot of people driving to us, which is good for our numbers as well. It certainly helped obviously give us a boost, but with a lack of swim clubs in the surrounding areas, especially as you go west and north, we have a lot of those people swimming for us.
Wow. That is quite a distance people are coming. I was just figuring that's people outside of Dufferin even, like that's.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. There are people that are in the Simcoe County, and honestly, I don't know what it is over as you go towards Arthur and other areas. But yeah, we're lucky in that regard. We do have a very big population base compared to what you'd think of as just in the immediate surrounding community of Orangeville.
Wow. I mean, that's important to note because, I mean, that is one of the things with the master plan, which we'll get into later, that they acknowledge that if they do close Tony Rose, the pool, that it will lead possibly to them having to restrict pool time to people outside of Orangeville.
Yeah, and with that master plan, as you mentioned, obviously the master plan was done with the best intentions for Orangeville. But when you read the master plan and you realize that they keep talking just about the town of Orangeville, they don't take into account the many other people that are using the facilities. And so, there are a lot of the recommendations for, at least with aquatics, because I didn't really do a deep dive into the other sports because I'm not obviously an expert with the other sports. It's not my sport choice. It's not my profession. But with respect to the pool, saying that only 30,000 people in the community use it and having one pool for those 30,000 people is appropriate, it is fine. But when you consider, I think that we pull from a community of about 75,000 people. I was actually speaking to my chiropractor, who is the wife of my assistant coach. So Heather Patey, my chiropractor at Village Chiropractic, was saying when she did her business analysis for opening her business, they were using 90,000 as the potential draw. Now, has that changed since she opened there? Yeah, probably a little bit. We've seen a lot of development in Alliston and Shelburne, and so there might be other clinics that would affect her number, but there isn't a competitive swim team and a pool that is utilized the way that we utilize Alder or Tony Rose in Shelburne or Alliston or over in Erin or in some of these other locations. So, we do pull from a much greater population base than 30,000 in Orangeville, not just for us, for the Otters, but probably for many, many other sports as well.
Does Shelburne have an outdoor pool? It looked like it. Yeah?
Yeah, they do. They have an outdoor pool. And actually, we learned that the Alder pool was not going to be available to us in July, as we had initially been told by Parks and Rec because of the issues with the liner. We started looking around, and there's the Shelburne outdoor pool. And that would be functional for us for from mid-May till probably mid-September, maybe even into early October, depending on the weather, certainly. And Fergus has a pool that we've considered using when they closed Alder in 2017 in December through to early January. We looked at using the Fergus pool as well to try and help operate our team at a regular kind of functioning, because we have so many members and we have to stop a lot of our programs. If we don't have access to two pools, we just can't function the way that we are currently. And so we have explored other options. Well, obviously, the majority of our members come from the immediate area of Orangeville and Shelburne, right? Like I said, obviously we have members driving from various areas, as I'm sure other sports do, but the primary membership is close to Orangeville, but we do have members in Shelburne and other areas that have pools. It's difficult to try and program those things year round, right? Shelburne doesn't have an indoor pool. Certainly we can't swim there through the late fall and winter and early spring. And Fergus is a possibility, but it's an inconvenience for some of our members, especially if we have members driving from Bolton, right, to drive all the way over to Fergus. Those roads, County Road 3, It's fantastic. It's a great way to get over to Guelph, and we take it. We're going to Kitchener and Waterloo and other things, visiting family. But to drive there in the winter is tough, right? Sometimes those roads are closed. They're icy. There's a lot of blowing snow. It's not the greatest drive, so it makes it difficult to use that year round for us. 100%. With the majority of members being in the immediate area anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So from what I understand, you're a former Olympian too.
Yep, I swam in the Olympics in the year 2000, which feels like a long time ago now. I was 19. I signed with the Cobra Swim Club in Brampton for my swimming career till I went to university, and that was my OAC year in high school. So that was quite an accomplishment for me when I look back on with fond memories, a childhood dream, I guess, and a goal for a very, very long time. That goal was probably born watching Stephen Clark qualify for the Olympics in 1992, when I really thought, hey, I could possibly get there. And I almost made the 2008 team as well. I tied for first at the Olympic trials in 2008 and then lost a swim off because the person I tied with in the 100 backstroke and we didn't reach the 2 per country FINA A standard. We hit the FINA B standard. So Canada was only allowed to swim 1, and he beat me to swim off. So it was very close to 2, but luckily I did make that time in 2000.
So I have to ask, what drew you to Orangeville, or specifically the Orangeville Otters Swim Club?
Well, I guess I'll take you back. I was living in St. Catharines as a sales rep, and I realized that I just wasn't passionate about what I was doing, and I didn't want to be involved in a 30 to 35 year career doing something I wasn't passionate about. I wasn't really happy in my professional life. I was doing it. It was just really a job and a means to an end and a means to a paycheck. And I felt like I had a lot left in me and a lot of passion for the sport of swimming. So I started applying for some jobs. I ended up being offered a job in Kitchener, Waterloo area. I was the assistant coach at Club Warriors for 3 years. And we did very well there, and I was happy being the assistant coach. I really, my job was good and our team was flourishing, but ultimately I knew that was only the beginning for me in coaching, and I wanted to be a full-time head coach. And Orangeville's job happened to pop up on the Canadian Swim Coaches Association job board, so I applied. I applied kind of on a whim, thinking, I had friends in Orangeville growing up in Brampton, right? I've had some very good friends here, including one of my best friends who lived on my street in Brampton. I emceed his wedding. I stood at him with his wedding. So I thought if I were to get the job, at least I would have one very good friend here, and I'm sure I would meet other people through him and just sort of being active in the community. So I applied for the job, and kind of surprisingly, I got it. It was, I guess, good timing for me. But because I was relatively new, I was only 3 years into my coaching career, I figured that I would just have them tell me areas where they felt I needed more experience or something like that. Even though I'd had 20 years of competitive swimming experience, I only had 3 in the coaching realm. But I was offered the job, and I came out here with the family to see the community, to see how much it had grown since I'd last been here. And I took it, and it was one of probably the best professional decision I've ever made.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. And so, okay, there's something I want to build off that, but before I get to it, did I hear correctly also that you've had a few swimmers that also make Olympic trial qualifying times?
Yes. So we didn't have anybody represent our team 4 years ago. The former head coach, Anne's daughter, had represented our club at the Olympic trials in 2012. She had been swimming with Orangeville for her whole life, and then was also swimming at Laurentian University. And so she qualified in 2012, but in 2016 we didn't have anybody. And so one of my big personal professional goals was to get people to the Olympic trials. It's the highest national standard there is. There's nothing higher in Canadian swimming unless you're swimming on the national team itself. So unless you're one of the top 2 in Canada, representing Canada on the international scene, that's the highest standard you can achieve. In the first 2 years, we didn't have anybody. We were very, very close. Year 2 with one of our top swimmers, Claire Howard. She just missed in the 200 freestyle. She has since made it. She's swimming at U of T. She graduated out of our program a couple years ago, and now swimming at Byron McDonald at U of T, and she's qualified. Our first qualifier was Logan Tucker last year. She made the 200 butterfly standard. She was a provincial medalist in the event. She was a provincial medalist in the 100 fly as well. A very, very good butterflyer, freestyle swimmer. So she made it last year. She's now swimming at Laurentian. Cameron Maxwell also qualified last year in the and I say last year, I'm thinking this is still the 2019-2020 season. So 2018-2019 season, he made the 100 backstroke, and he was a provincial medalist in 100 backstroke for a couple of years. He's now at Western. So those two swimmers made it in the 2018-2019 season. Claire Howard qualified at U of T. So not technically my swimmer, but an Orangeville Otter her whole life, and still swims for us in the summers when she's not swimming at university. And then this season, we had Abby Soster qualify in the 400 IM at the senior time, and she had the 100 and 200 breaststrokes as well as a junior swimmer, so someone under the age of 18. So she had 3 qualifying times, and then and she's been a provincial medalist every single year that I've had her, all 4 years. Actually, I was very disappointed for her because she didn't rest. Her whole goal, since she had the junior standards already, was to just focus on Olympic trials, and she didn't get the opportunity because it was canceled to really show where she was. And then also Evan Aguiar-Winter and Alexander Bowen. Alexander being a provincial champion, Evan being a provincial medalist. He should have been a champion this year. He was second in a race where a swimmer from Alberta came out to swim at the pool and edged him out and beat him in the Turner backstroke. So he was the best in Ontario. They qualified at the junior standards this year, so the standards for 17 and under. So we had 5 swimmers qualified. We might add a couple more. We've got a couple of distance swimmers, Willow Cherawati and Owen Jibb, who are very, very close to those standards as well. Depending on how much pool time and how much training they can get, they might add their name to that list. And we've got maybe a couple of other swimmers that are quite a bit younger, that are 13, 14 years old, that might step up and put their name on the list too. I don't want to put any pressure on them by naming them here, but we could have a very large contingent. I know that these swimmers have that goal, certainly. It's difficult to know because I haven't worked with the swimmers for 5 months to know, even though they've been doing their Zoom training and all these other things that I've seen them online, but to see them in the water and to assess where they are and where they need to be and look to see where they need to be, it's tough. And I don't really know with the younger swimmers, how much they've grown, how they've developed, etc. So we could have a very large Orangeville contingent going. That'd be really, really exciting for us. We had 6 swimmers properly qualified for this season. I'm hopeful that we'll have 8 going in since it's been pushed back a year. But we may have more. We'll see.
Wow.
With any good fortune, and we'll have more. But again, we'll have to assess that once the season resumes for us.
Wow, that's impressive.
Thank you very much. In fairness, it's not something that I did really. It's I came into Orangeville, and I would say I gave the swimmers a program that would allow them to get there, but it took buy-in from the swimmers, the board of directors, the parents of the swimmers. I increased the amount that the kids were swimming from what they were doing previously quite substantially, but we're not doing more than a lot of other clubs are swimming. A lot of the clubs at the national level have swimmers training 9 times a week. Our swimmers are doing 8, but we do a lot of dry land activities and weights and other things to kind of make up for the lack of pool time. But also the swimmers really kind of approaching it with an open mind, embracing such a big change in what they were used to. And then it took a few years, right, to get them caught up to where they needed to be, really, at their age, to be competing at the top of the top levels in Ontario and in the country. So in addition to that, I needed to have other coaches, right? I mean, you can't coach everybody with a team of a couple hundred swimmers. I needed to have the right people in place, good staff members that were teaching the good fundamentals and helping develop swimmers with the skills they needed at particular ages. So I've been very, very lucky coming here where people had an open mind on the board of directors. I was able to get some more pool time, hire more staff, and collectively it's really been a big team effort. Just because I coach the older and the fastest swimmers, I'm kind of the one that gets more of the credit, but credit is due across the board in our club. It's not just me, it's a big team effort, but I'm very, very happy and very proud of where we are, and hopeful that we can, like I said, we can have more swimmers at that level and achieving higher levels this season and going through to 2024.
Wow. Like, I'm not a big sports guy, but I mean, I know like Orangeville is like well known for like hockey, or like it was before we got rid of some things, and then lacrosse. But I mean,
Yep.
this is amazing. Like this is really awesome. Like I don't hear about this enough. I mean, and we should. Like this is impressive.
Well, thank you very much. You're right. We are a big lacrosse town. I knew that coming in. I was told about it, but I hadn't experienced it until I moved here. And hockey's big everywhere. I grew up in Brampton, where the Battalion were huge, and Jason Spezza got every headline in the world in the sports section. And it seemed like I had to break a national record to get any kind of recognition. So, like, occasionally, as a senior anyway. Maybe not when I was younger, but um, we're very, very happy with where we are, and certainly, the papers have been, I think, more supportive of us this year than they had been previously.
That's good.
We're trying to get the word out. People are learning that we're doing well, and that's helpful because then there's interest in our club, and people who are maybe on the fringe might be more likely to enroll their kid in our swim club. But yeah, we're doing quite well. We're doing quite well, and I'm like I said, I'm very proud of our club and our team and where we are, and our swimmers especially. They're the ones in the water that are really working hard and doing the best that they can. And so any kind of recognition they get, I'm all for, because I know firsthand how many hours they're training and how much effort they're putting into it. So I think that's really important for kids. They want to be recognized not just for their achievements, but for the effort they are putting into it. And it's a lot. It's significant in swimming with a lot of hours of training. Like I said, our top swimmers are training 20 plus hours a week. So it's a big chunk of their time. It becomes their life and their lifestyle. So yeah, kudos to them. They deserve every bit of recognition they get, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, it's building up all kinds of like work ethic and discipline, I imagine. Like there's a lot of benefits to it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I used to hear coaches say that, and I've said this to my swimmers. I used to think it was kind of BS. I used to think I showed up to practice, I worked my butt off, I swam well because I earned it. It really wasn't until I got into a professional career in sales. I saw it a little bit in university, but because I had my university life was also very much dominated by my swimming life. It really wasn't until swimming was gone that I saw the attributes that I had developed over a 20-year swimming career. The consistency, the work ethic, the perseverance, all of those types of things that I didn't really understand when I was younger that I was developing. I really saw them kind of come to light in my professional career when some of my colleagues in sales would be complaining that they had to work this hard to do something or this many hours, and I just thought, so what? That's what it takes. That's what you do. It didn't dawn on me until I was more mature, I guess, and really had a chance to kind of analyze my personal characteristics compared to some of my colleagues in other professions. Certainly, I see that, of course, now on the pool deck with other swim coaches. We're a dedicated bunch. We have however many workouts per week. Sometimes it feels like too many, and many long hours on the pool deck at swim meets, up to 15 hours in a day. But I think, all swimmers, all coaches would say they do it because they love it. They love swimming. And honestly, the long days at swim meets are the easier ones because the swim meets are fun. That's when we get to see where the swimmers are, what they've learned, what they've developed, how they've improved. Those are the fun times, the most fun times anyway for me.
Awesome. Awesome.